Back again, back again. The best weekend of the year. It's Whitney time up at Saratoga. The one weekend I get to go and have some fun at the track with all of my good friends. And hopefully, if you are out there and you watch the streams and you're going to be up there this weekend, please come and look for me with my brand new Loggins hat. And so anybody that's been a big fan here of the channel knows that I'm hoping to be the only person sporting my boy Loggins from Hillendale. So you look for me with that hat on Friday. We actually connected 2 weeks ago on our daily double. I finally get off the snide when Pounce came through. And not only was Pounce on my ticket, he was my top play in that race. So that always feels nice to get off of it. And now we try to connect 2 races in a row. And we're going to stick up with Saratoga, and we're going to stick with the boys from On the Wrong Lead. Josh missed, so now his partners in crime get to come over and not only give him a little ribbing, they also try to connect as well. Stay tuned for the end of the show where you will get our daily double tickets for the Troy and the Whitney Stakes. Before I bring in my guest, I want to give you a little spot play that I have. I use RaceLens, and on Thursday, this is great because this angle pops up and it shows you in green. So the angles that you can put in will quickly pop up. This is an angle that started on Kentucky Derby Day with the Chad Brown 4-year-old older on the turf, who comes out with a career best speed figure in a graded stakes, an ROI of 166%. On the Derby Day, we had that try where all 3 Chad Browns hit the angle. They finished in the try. We had program trading on that day, and then Chili Flag was a huge play that I gave out with this angle on Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. So Royal Interest on Thursday at 10-1. If you're watching this on Thursday, you can come back and see how we did. If you're not, maybe you want to toss a little bit on Royal Interest in race 9 on Thursday, August 1st up at Saratoga. August 1st. Imagine that. The summer's going by too fast. Let's get right to our daily double. I'm your host, Colin, and this is Doubling Down. And as I have said since episode 1, Mark, we're getting up into the 80s now. So we're approaching episode 100, which I'm really excited about. I got some special things that I'll be reaching out to you for that episode. But we always like to bring in new voices and hear from other people, both in the YouTube world, but also in the horse racing world. And Mark, over at On the Wrong Lead, we're happy to have you join us today. How we doing?
I'm doing really good, man. Saratoga meet has been awesome. I live very close by, so I get the luxury of being able to be on track quite a lot. Been just a great meet. Weather up until today has been pretty darn good. We definitely had some quite a bit of rain coming through today, but shaping up to be a really great weekend. An amazing card this Whitney weekend. I am, I'm really super excited to be firing away at this one.
Well, what we do here, Mark, is we put together a daily double ticket, and your colleague, Josh Rodriguez, swung and missed 2 weeks ago. We didn't have an episode last week, so we're going to try and tie a couple together. But first, we always ask our new voices on the show, is the daily double a bet that you're comfortable with? Is it one that you play a lot? Is it one that you lean on the most? Where does it fit in your repertoire?
Yeah, so I actually pulled the stats on this because I knew you'd be asking the question. And over the last 2 years, I average about 18% of my volume is daily doubles, is my second most play as wager. I tend to play more through the pick 5 in total dollars spent, but my ROI with doubles has been really good. It's a wager I love and have really grown to love over, let's say, the past 5 years. I was always somebody, and this is actually a similar story to Josh. I was somebody that loved the idea of hitting that big pick 6, hitting that big pick 5. And so I'm a big ABC structure guy. I always have multiple tickets and I lever my tickets differently. And I started realizing that oftentimes I would cap a pick 5 and I'd be like, I love these 2 races in a row, but I hate this one race in the middle of the sequence. So how do I take advantage? And I started using a lot of daily doubles. They very much increased my volume. And also I play a lot of tournaments. So in a lot of the live money tournaments, a daily double is a really good way of creating value by taking a short priced horse and leveraging it into some prices in another race. So you can find a lot of value that way. And it's a great tournament strategy as well. So I use the daily double a ton, absolutely love it. And it's really kind of one of the workhorses for me that I put a lot of volume through.
And people that are my loyal listeners are going to hate me say this because I always do. But Mark, you can't hit 5 if you can't hit 2, right? So
exactly,
it's a great beginner's bet for those that are maybe new to horse racing or just trying to figure it out. The pick 5, of course, it's a lottery ticket. There is skill, and you can certainly get that huge bang. But I think my show has proven through the amount of people that have come on that it's not as easy as it looks. But to your point, not only can you create great value, the daily double can give you a sense of what the payouts are going to be by looking at the probables. And I think that is so integral for people that are playing horses and are new to it. When you kind of say, well, what's my pick 3 going to pay? And like, well, you're not going to know until maybe you're alive in that third leg. Then we'll tell you, right? So check out those probables. And that's where something like you said, if you've got a heavy favorite, and I think we're going to have one here as we look at this leg, you can look into the second leg and go, okay, well, I know that maybe a horse like Cogburn, I'm getting less than 4 to 5 or 4 to 5. What if I put him with a long shot, maybe like Post Time or Skippy or someone in the second leg, and see what that's paying out for you?
Yeah, no, I think a daily double is a great way to find value like that, and oftentimes it's oftentimes hard to find value. But most of the time, when people start talking, oh, I want to play those lottery ticket wagers, right? They're looking at a pick 5 and they're saying, I'm going to play this pick 5 with some sort of a sequence at base wager amount. Well, if you look at what the total investment, you're going to invest $75 or $100 into a sequence. Well, maybe instead invest $75 or $100 into a double. You're going to have you're going to hit more of them. You're going to have a higher chance of hitting them. You're not going to be demoralized because you're missing wagers and you're not cashing ever. And you can actually make quite a bit of money doing that if you lever up those doubles a little bit.
Absolutely. Let's see what we can make out of the Troy and Whitney here as we look at the Troy. It is 5.5 furlongs on the turf course up at Saratoga, which took, obviously, as you mentioned, some rain. There's a little bit more in the forecast. I looked at Saturdays. It's only like about 20%, and it's in the afternoon. So hopefully, I think we'll be okay here. Obviously, Mark, when I sent you, I'm going to look and see what we can find. I did a quick scan through, and I went, wow, a field of 12 and a field of 12, and they look pretty competitive. I think this sounds like a pretty good a leg to attack. And I saw Mischief Magic, and my viewers know that's a horse I'm just always attracted to. Then I did my actual work for the people, and you start looking at a horse like Cogburn, who not only had extremely impressive performances since moving to the turf, he comes off of a record-breaking performance in his last race. He looks really, really tough here. Right now, the 4 to 5 morning line favorite. He is grade winner at grade 3, grade 2, and grade 1. A horse that started on the turf and then on the dirt, and then we'll show you the past performances here. They move him to the dirt, and I think it's so cool when horses kind of have this light bulb moment of moving surfaces. Like, it's so cool to see a horse who, when he was on the dirt, you're like, oh, an 8th losing to Tejano Twist and to Skelly. Then they comes to the turf, and suddenly he's breaking world records. Mark, did you find yourself landing on Cogburn, or are you going to find someone to maybe beat him in here?
I'm not going to get super creative. I think I'd have to get very cute to get beyond Cogburn. Like you said, after they moved him onto the turf, he just became a different horse. His only loss on the turf since they moved him there was at Kentucky Downs, going 6. And if you look at those Kentucky Downs races, very often they play a little longer than what you'd expect. Horses that are cutting back tend to do really well there. So I think it was just a little too far for him that day. Beyond that, he's perfect going this trip, going this 5.5 furlong, one corner turf race. He is, just very, very, very good on any sort of metric, any sort of speed figure you look at. He kind of towers over this field. He should be your front runner. He should make the front end as long as he breaks. And I think he just kind of wires this field. And I think also that little bit of rain, that little bit of weather you mentioned, I tend to find when the Saratoga turf takes a little bit of rain, speed becomes better. So I think it actually, even increases his chances. So, I think it kind of stinks. You have, that you're kind of landing on the favorite in a big field. You're trying to find those prices. But the opposite side is there. Using a double, you're going to be able to see what the will pays are going to be, which is great. You're going to see what your probables, I should say, are going to be. And also you're going to be able to go, hey, there are a whole bunch of other horses that are going to take some money. And if you can really focus in on somebody like Cogburn, even though he's going to be the favorite, you still get a better price than if this was, say, a 5 or a 6 horse field where there were less places for people to have money going. So, nothing creative here. I do think Cogburn's your likeliest winner. And I think there's an argument to me he's probably the likeliest winner on the card.
Yeah. And when I first went through, I thought of some horses that maybe I could get cute with. And I've always said on this show, if you're going to get cute and take a swing against a horse like Cogburn, don't miss, right? So if you are going to try to find your way past Cogburn here in a daily double, don't single maybe a horse that you think might, add a couple. And there was a few that I was interested that I'll talk about and see what you thought. The first, as I mentioned, I'm a sucker for Mischief Magic. I just really love this horse. Of previous winner in the Breeders' Cup on the Turf Sprint, was in that same race at Saratoga on June 8th. However, the style of this horse is just killer. I mean, you can't be 3 races back at Keeneland, 6 lengths behind in a 5.5 furlong sprint, 7 lengths behind 2 back, 7 lengths at the first call in the Jaipur. But Mark, this horse closes like a freight train, and that's always attractive to me on the turf. And in fact, in that Jaipur, he was coming. And if this was that Kentucky Downs race that you'd mentioned, that maybe Mischief Magic would be absolutely one that I'd want to throw in my ticket. And you're getting William Buick, who's over for a few rides this weekend. I think that's an important angle. Obviously, Buick was on him last time and couldn't get him home. But if there was anybody but Buick, he wouldn't even be in my thoughts. But Mischief Magic is certainly one. Anything to add on what I have? I'm not going to put him on my ticket. I'm gonna alert my viewers. I'm taking the step back.
He got an absolutely perfect trip at Keeneland when he won the juvenile turf sprint, and he just feels like the type that really hasn't taken that huge step forward. Again, he's the type I want to try to make a case for. I completely understand where you're coming from, but just not a horse that I can really get to. I don't love the rail post going 5.5 on the turf, especially with a full field, and especially with a horse that does not have a ton of early speed. So he's going to get shuffled way back. He's going to try to make his one run. He just needs the absolute perfect trip, and even if he gets it, I don't really know if he's good enough in here.
Yeah, his speed figures of 102 and 100 back last year, and now puts up 101, 104. It's kind of maybe where you think his ceiling might be as a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Let's look at a lightly raced horse here who I thought was intriguing, who has shown increasing speed figures. So you have a 4-year-old who maybe we haven't seen the skyline yet, and you got it's Mischievous Angel, the number 5, with Jose Ortiz aboard. Puts up a 104 last time up at Saratoga on June 7th, that same weekend. At 30-1, I'm not going to talk anybody off of it. The horse obviously needs to improve coming from, I see maiden special weight, which is always a positive to win at, but then runs in the grade 2 and finishes 6th behind Carl Spackler. Comes back, takes care of business in the allowance level, but this is a big step up when you're going against Cogburn. Mischievous Angel, any interest in maybe that horse?
A tiny little bit, actually. I think this is the type who, also, if you look at his form cycle, he's in every other type. He's won every other race that he's been in. So this should be the kind of go race if he sticks with that sort of form cycle. He needs to improve a ton. I don't know if he necessarily gets the trip. He was getting arguably the best turf jock on the grounds in Flavian Pratt in his last 2, has now jumped elsewhere. But you're getting Jose Ortiz, who's also a great jock. A lot of question marks, but I do like the fact with these horses who we don't know what his ceiling is. We don't know what he can be. He can still take those steps forward. I think a lot of others in this race are really exposed. So a tiny bit of interest in him, and you're going to get your price. You're going to probably get all of that 30-1.
And the last one I had some interest on was maybe Grimm's All Business, who again shows that increasing speed figures and actually put up a 114, which I thought was impressive. This was at Monmouth. He's actually scratched out of this race last year. You could see right here on the PPs, he scratched out of this race. Then he scratched out of that same race against Cogburn in the Jaipur. So maybe he's avoiding them, and maybe we're going to see him scratch on Saturday as well. Dylan Davis aboard. Just not enough there for me to want to dive in at 8-1 against Cogburn.
Yeah, I will say he's another one that I was a little interested in here. He does have improving figures. I don't know if you necessarily trust that last out figure. Seemed to be quite the improvement on some of the figures that I'm looking at. And I wonder if that's a legitimate figure. But, again, a horse that he does like to find the winner's circle, 6-14 lifetime. And it does seem like, 6-10 going this trip. So a horse that gets it done, and you're getting the absolutely white hot Dylan Davis, something I never thought I would actually utter. But Dylan has been riding lights out so far this meet at Saratoga. So very capable hands right now. And another one that's going to be a bit of a price that I think, could, if Cogburn doesn't bring his, I think Cogburn can kind of bring his B game and still win this. But if he has, obviously Cogburn is getting, up there, more starts. Cogburn is a 5-year-old at some point, if he doesn't fire there, that's a very interesting player.
All right, let's move on to the marquee race for Saturday. This is the Grade 1 Whitney Stakes, a Breeders' Cup Classic win, and you're in race, which had White Barrio having a pretty impressive performance last year. Safi's back with Skippy Long stockings. This year, you have a healthy field of 12, and I was kind of thinking there was a lot more competitive, and then you go through and you watch some replays and you go, man, I guess I didn't pick a very competitive daily double, because you bring in National Treasure out of the Bob Baffert barn with that extremely hot jockey Flavian Pratt aboard. And then the one thing that I thought could cause problems for National Treasure is that I wrote down there's a lot of speed in this race, right? I think that if there's a problem that National Treasure might have is pressure in at points of the race where he likes to be on the front end, and maybe some speed causes him to fold up a little bit, which is why I have a couple long shots on my toss on my ticket here. All of the speed is like post 8, 9, 10, and 11, right? And I mean, maybe you get a little bit from Disarmed inside of him and First Mission as well. But the real threats to him having that maybe troubled trip is kind of out the window with his post. What'd you think about the Whitney field and National Treasure?
I think it's amazing that we got such a full field in the Whitney. The race probably does lack that star power. There's not those big marquee names, but it is a very competitive race. There's a big full field. It is a phenomenal betting race, and it's a really phenomenal betting card. So really nice things to see. National, I don't think anybody's going to argue that National Treasure is your likeliest winner. If his game is to go to the front end and kind of control the race, and if he runs back to some of his best stuff, he kind of destroys this. His Met Mile was really, really good. His Pegasus was also a really great race. Trip shouldn't be a problem. Now, the concerns with National Treasure are, if you look at occasionally he tosses a clunker, and his clunkers tend to be where he's got pace pressure early and he can't kind of get comfortable and get settled on the lead. That's sort of what happened to him in the Saudi Cup. That's sort of what happened to him in the Travers or the Awesome Again, those types of races. So is it the case where, you did mention there's a lot of pace in here? Is he going to be able to get out there, get comfortable on the front end? If he gets comfortable and settles in, I think he's pretty hard to beat here. Again, you did mention a couple of the horses that are probably going to present some pressure. I think somebody like Arthur's Ride, the 11, probably has to press in this race. So he's going to have some contentious pace. Jockey intentions and what the trainers want is going to be a little bit interesting in here, but obviously he's your likeliest winner. I do have a couple other prices that I am a little interested in here, though.
Let's hear them.
Yeah, so the first one is the 9 horse Bright Future. This is a horse that I didn't really know what to make of last year. It seemed to kind of put it together at the end of his 4-year-old campaign, and then just wasn't good enough for the Breeders' Cup Classic. I thought his last race down at Monmouth was a really professional effort. And if you are somebody that follows these, I know you're going to have our the third member of On the Wrong Lead on here in a week or so, Caleb Knight. Caleb Knight loves him finding what he refers to as these little baby Z patterns. Horse that were on the pace, they drifted back, and then they made a big rally. And if you look at Bright Future's last race, that's exactly what he did. On the engine, drifted a little back, and then made one big rally in the end. That tends to be a situation where the performance was actually a little better than the figure came back. So I think Bright Future is probably the horse that I'm most interested in to beat National Treasure.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say the other horse that I'm a little interested in here is probably who's gonna be your second choice, and that's First Mission. First Mission has again, a horse that likes to win, 5 of 9 lifetime, and a horse that's going to get it may end up kind of sitting that pocket trip as some of these horses. Obviously National Treasure, and I had already mentioned Arthur's Ride go to the front end. He's going to kind of sit right behind those and should get that first run on somebody like National Treasure. If he's good enough and maybe National Treasure gets a little softened up on the front end, he's the other one that I thought was a little interesting here, although he's probably going to be your second choice. So you have to kind of look at the board and see if what the value, where the value really is.
Yeah, that was my concerns against First Mission. I feel like he wants a target to go at, and if that target's National Treasure, I'm concerned that he's going to try and he's going to struggle there. And actually, some some RaceLens angles that pop up here is exactly that. In races where they early speed and then tired in their last, they come back with only a success score of 4.2 and a negative 29 ROI. You will see, Mark, this green angle this is what RaceLens is great about. You can create these angles and then they'll pop for you. And this top one here that's green, and this is just a side note really quickly, horses shipping up from Churchill Downs and keeping the same jockey aboard. In fact, all horses shipping up from Churchill Downs are being very successful, and that's an angle you might want to pay attention to. The success score of 7.5% with a positive ROI of 17%. So this is a nice tool that will just pop that for you, and you're not going to put all your eggs in that basket, although I will on that Chad Brown angle I gave out at the beginning of the show tomorrow, and you might want to as well because it's on fire.
I will say I love your Chad Brown angle. That's a horse that I actually had marked down as a potential spot play there for a number of other reasons. And no, I have a horrible feeling you're not going to get that 10-1, but if you do, that's a very, very, and again, that's a kind of spot that I might use a double for. You find a 10-1 that you can single in a double and either double into it or double out of that race. There's a lot of value to be had when you can find those types of angles.
The price, what you mentioned, is the other reason I'm not really interested in First Mission. Now I'm gonna go to a wild card horse here, and you're gonna maybe tell me you're crazy, tell me I'm crazy, and never come on my show again, and that's okay. I went through this field the first time, and what I had talked to you about, which actually RaceLens saw when I pulled up when it gives you the race pace, it actually said it's projected a slow pace, and I don't see that, and I sometimes disagree with at least RaceLens's angle on as far as what the pace is. I think the speed figures do really well, and I rely on it for other tools. But when I saw that really fast pace, I started to look, and where's my closers? This horse is overmatched. I'm not going to say he's not. I think Krupe, a son of Colin, who's a horse who's a 4-year-old, and I think Curlin's generally are better as they get older, in their 4-year-old season, their 5-year-old season. This horse had some success, but this is a closer, and this is a really good closer, and some speed figures here. It was Maidan, 1012, 109, 107, 103. These aren't out to lunch to me, and this horse is 15-1, and you're getting Pletcher and Irad, which if you told me you're going to get a Pletcher and an Irad in a race at 15-1, I'm going to say, okay, that moves the needle slightly. Who's he against, right? You have to think about something. The horse's best distance is also 1.125 miles. He's got 3 victories at this distance. And he wasn't winning that last race. The pace was too slow up front for him to come down and close on next. But I think Krupe at 15-1, I don't think he's going to be on my ticket. I'm going to put him in there, and hopefully maybe like you had mentioned with Cogburn, he's one where we can make a little value off of a horse like Krupe. You can call me crazy. It's okay. People know on this show I don't like going favorite. I'm going to use National Treasure as well. So very easily now you got Cogburn, National Treasure. You're going to want to weight that ticket more, right? Maybe that's a $5 bet for your double, and then this one is $1 or $2 depending upon those payouts. But I'm keeping Krupe on, and I haven't heard many other people talking about him. So at least I'll be the only one at Saratoga this weekend wearing a Loggins hat, and I will also be maybe the only one cheering on Krupe. What do you think?
I think he has some figures in his career. I mean, honestly, really, that Pegasus is the one figure that comes back that I say would be competitive with this field. My concern is, first off, you got to see how the track's playing. Obviously, we got some weather. Track is probably going to change a little bit, and see if you can close. And if the track is playing fair, I'm not going to talk anybody off of 15-1 that you think has a shot, and you can find a race on the farm where you say, hey, if he runs back to this race, he runs fast enough to be a player here. My concern is he just might have way too much to do. He may end up being further out of it than you want to be. And so far this meet, no matter the distance, you don't want to be more than, say, 3 lengths off the lead. And I have a feeling he's going to be more like 7 or 8 lengths out, just given the pace complexion of this race. So I think he's going to have a lot to do. But again, you're getting Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz at a price. You're getting a horse you can make an angle for. I've seen worse prices.
I like to hear that. At least it's not the worst price you've ever heard someone take. The other price I'm going to take is your rail horse. The number 1 post time for the Russells. The last race was that Met Mile, June 8th at Saratoga, the Grade 1, and I think that we're underestimating a little bit the race that post time put in the stretch here. Now the race was over; he wasn't catching your winner. But
He ran
I think
huge.
he's a
He ran
yeah.
huge.
You know, if you're getting me at a nice price like this, sorry, I'm just trying to get this uh screen here for you, and I'm
No,
struggling.
I mean, as you're running through this, he ran absolutely huge this day, and I liked him at a pretty big price here. And he, he is a horse that if you are a person that likes a horse that just tries and runs, brings his A game every race and tries so hard, he's your kind of horse. And he never runs a bad race. He sort of always hits the board, normally at a price, and he's shown he can do it now on the bigger stage. I think he's a very interesting horse who's again going to be a big price. My biggest concern with him is that as our good friend Matt DeSantis says, Sheldon Russell rides him like he's riding Secretariat every time he's on him, and I don't necessarily love some of the rides I've seen on him, but he's going to be a big price in here, and I think that there's definitely a case you can make that he's an interesting player. Outsider, yes, but you're getting paid for that. You're going to get that price.
Yeah, and the one while I struggled there, it made me forget what my main point I wanted to make, which is when you see blue circles, so at least on my past performances, that means that this is the highest Equibase speed figure, not only for the horse, but also in the entire race. So he put up back-to-back 116s, and then he even put up a 115 two-back at Belmont at Aqueduct. Now, for me, Mark, I usually want to see a horse do something at least twice, and he's put up at least a 115 three times. That's nothing to sneeze at. Whereas the best for Mr. National Treasure was that 115 in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So that was the angle where I was seeing two blues and a 20-1. That was why I landed on post time to round out my ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna beat you up too much, but if you do look at if you do look at the price he went off in a lot of those Laurel races, he was in some fairly soft races. He was much the best in those races, and he was bet accordingly. He's a horse that's gone off that 3 to 5, probably more times in his career than any other horse I can think of. So he's in very much deeper waters here, and he's even very much deeper waters than he even was in his last race. But again, the type of horse who, yeah, you can look at the form and find some reasons to really like him.
I love this sport because you can spend 27 minutes on two races where we had one that we both thought was absolutely going to win, and there's enough, right? There's enough angles and stuff to talk about that this sport, for those of us that are intrigued by it, that's exactly why, and it makes it so much fun. So Mark is going to give an A and a B ticket. Mark, do you put more money on your A ticket? Can you just explain to the people real quick how you play this?
Yeah, I would very much lever up the A's. So, depending on track bias, if you're in a situation where speed on the dirt has been very, very good, I might make it something like 10-1 ratio. So 10 times the A, and I bet a $10 A wager and a $1 on the B wager. If closers are getting there, the track's a little more fair. I'd probably put it in more that 5-1 ratio. So 5x my A's over 1x the B's. Something like that, create a little bit of a structure, and obviously you can see the probables, so it gives you the ability to go, again, if you pull up that 6-3 daily double and it's paying $5 or $6 or something crazy stupid short, you just put your hands in your pockets and you watch the race. But I think the field sizes are big enough, you're definitely going to get some value otherwise.
That's a great point of what putting into the play when the bets come, how the track is playing, and adjusting your X time. That's the first time we've heard this on this show. So glad you bring something new for the people. I'm going to go 6 with the 137. We're only going $3 this week, and yours I put dollar base. That's the rules on the show, but you've explained what you would do, so people can do what they want. They can play both of our picks and still only owe them a Starbucks coffee. So we like to keep them in the ballpark range here on Doubling Down. Mark, you've survived the challenge. We will catch up. Mark's at the track this weekend. Where can we find all your guys' great content?
Yeah, we're on YouTube under On the Wrong Lead. We actually did a Wednesday live stream because a few of us were traveling, but we normally do a Thursday at 8:30 Eastern live stream. We cover all the big stakes action going on for the weekend. And if you're a Twitter person, we are wrong_lead on Twitter. And we hop onto a lot of other content like like the stuff that you guys are putting out, and really appreciate the invite. It's a fun thing. I can't do any worse than Josh. I'm sure he picked a couple of E8s and the thing with picking E8s is sometimes they win, but very often they don't. So yeah, Josh is predictable, if anything.
I'm trying to remember who did he have in that first leg? I don't have it right in front of me, but we'll tote it out. And yeah, it's all good. So thanks so much for doing this. We'll see you at the track this weekend. If you see either of us around, please stop and say hello. I'll be the only one on Friday with this puppy on. And hopefully we can get these double down tickets for you. Please like and subscribe. Till next time, I'm Colin. He's Mark. Have a great day, everybody.